right, we're at 5:30, so why don't we get the meeting started? Abby, you want to take a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Hoyt.
Here.
Commissioner Lorge.
Here.
Commissioner Langness.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
President Erickson.
Here. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have an agenda before us. I entertain a motion to approve it or make an amendment.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we have an agenda. Open forum is next on the agenda. I don't see anybody here to speak to that, so we'll move right past that to the consent agenda, which was the minutes from our regular meeting on August 4th. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we're,
I abstain, I wasn't here.
oh, very good. One abstination. All right, regular agenda items. We got the work plan update. Abby.
Thank you, President Erickson. Forgive me, folks, with those council members that are on the body, I kind of forget your names a little bit. So, at the EDA's August meeting, the EDA reviewed the EDA's current work plan in preparation of a work plan update. During the meeting and afterwards, before and afterwards, EDA members provided staff with numerous items as potential work plan update items, and I'll include that on the board for reference. On your podium, up on the screens for reference. I tried to lump items into categories to try to kind of help keep our items kind of condensed into what we're working on or what we'd like to work on. The categories kind of falling into policy, business assistance, beautification, area planning, housing, land sales and development, community marketing, and advocacy. And each in those categories, you can see there's numerous potential projects in each of those categories. All of them very worthy projects for the city, the EDA, to be working on in the coming future. It's just a lot. And I think one of the things that has kind of come up for staff in helping guide the work plan conversations, the EDA may not be aware, as of your last meeting, it hadn't been set, but the council has set a strategic planning session for later this month. October 25th, the council will be meeting with city staff, department heads, to start the process of developing a city council strategic plan. This would be the first, Mayor Roberts might be able to tell me, I think it's the first since maybe 2019?
Probably, I don't recall any.
Yeah, I think that the existing strategic plan is well past due. And so one of the things that staff wanted to at least talk with the EDA about is kind of holding off on maybe creating too much of a work plan for the EDA until the council has had that strategic planning session to see if the council's strategic plan can feed into kind of direct the EDA's work plan some. Ideally, the EDA working on those things that the council has kind of identified as strategic priorities. I did note in here there is a number of items of our existing work plan that we still have to work on. Business subsidy, EDA policy review. We had started that some time ago. It's been paused and it just needs to come back before you. We have worked through the forgivable loan program. That's going, just a quick update tonight, that's going to go to the council next week. Or excuse me, your forgivable loan program has actually been approved and implemented. The housing LAHA funds, that's going to be going to the council next week. The Southwest area study, We do have the grant application out. That study development is underway. I do believe we should have something for you for your consideration at the next meeting. We did look at the downtown shoreline study, some options with the downtown boat launch, and discussions with advancing your boat club's existing agreement with the city, no expansion options right now. Two areas where the areas where I'd say we still have some work in our existing work plan is that policy review, which we definitely need to be focusing on in the next few months. Headwaters 123, and then that downtown priorities, which is a really big bucket of what do we want to do in that downtown plan. So what staff's recommendation is that the EDA hold on our current work plan, extending it into 2026, but do not do any updates until we have that kind of strategic direction from the council's strategic planning session. Now, that being said, the EDA doesn't have to take any action tonight. This is still our work plan, and it would just kind of, my work would continue to kind of help guide you guys on those things that we still haven't accomplished. But certainly, bringing back before you exactly what we said we were going to talk about is all the things the EDA does want to work on and how that works into an EDA updated work plan.
All right, thank you, Abby. Questions from the commission? I know I had a chance to review this and I had a conversation with Abby earlier today. My inclination, while I can appreciate this long list of worthy projects, some of which, are represented in our current work plan, some of which, have been talked about for a while, I hesitate to just carte blanche push forward our current work plan and rubber stamp it for the next year, in part because some of it's accomplished, number one. Number two, some of it's not even germane, like the idea of supporting the 123 as a Minnesota technology corridor. Right? So, there's just some things in the current work plan that are no longer relevant, as I understand it. So, my preference would be to not take, any significant action tonight on this. Wait for the council event later this month, see what comes out of that. Maybe at the end of the day, i.e., the end of the year, we end up just making minor modifications to this work plan for another 12 months, knowing that there is a certain level of, capacity issues as well from a staff standpoint, but I guess that's, as I kind of looked at this and had a chance to have a conversation with Abby where I'm leaning.
I agree.
Yeah, I guess my thought is, I don't know if, I think, well, with two council members being on the EDA, I think that this board, I would hope, has a pretty good idea that we're, pro-development or whatever. So if it is downtown stuff, it is, I hate the word business subsidy, but if it is TIF 123, I think the council's desire is that the EDA is willing to do whatever there to kind of spur some of this development on. And so that, and with knowing that potentially here before the end of the year, there will be a project that will come forward likely for the EDA to just get an update and look at and give some direction to the council. I think, still focusing on that without pausing too much, because that will be something that I think the council is going to want some direction before the end of the year on.
I do want to know, there are ongoing, development efforts throughout the community that staff is continuing to work on, right? That isn't necessarily needs to come back to the EDA. When I was talking with Leif earlier, I said it feels somewhat like an oxymoron to talk about EDA efforts when we have 16 entitlement applications right now. And I would say several of them are for commercial development, new commercial development in our community. Really exciting stuff, but stuff that, your efforts, our rah, Forest Lake's a great place, come do business, is paying off. So it's not that staff isn't necessarily doing proactive economic development, it's just some of this project-specific stuff has to get back burning just slightly. I do agree with you, Blake. It's easier just to call you Blake than to remember what your first, are you mayor here, are you counselor? I don't know. That yes, there's stuff that's happening throughout that may come back to you, and it's not like staff's not picking up the phone, sitting down a meeting with people. Those sorts of things are happening. It's just new initiatives, things, entryway monuments and things like that, use of fund balance, like maybe not move forward quite yet with these things, because we do have quite a bit of development actually happening, which is really exciting.
So can I ask a question regarding
Yeah.
that? Is it just any updates that we should be aware of in regards to that, or just when they come to this committee at one of our meetings too?
No, it's always been my goal to have to you quarterly development updates. So for members that don't know, we've been down a planner, our only other staff position,
Yeah.
down a building official, and down what would be our planning manager. We filled that position within the planning manager within the last 3 weeks. We've been hiring for a planner, and we have made an offer on a building official. And so part of a lot of this is just kind of keeping up on that reporting. Has frankly, it's not excusable, but I don't have the time. I physically can't get those reports to you. But those are things that I think we can, if you've been following the council's, I think everybody in the city that has a city email, the Friday updates, really trying hard to push out there some of that stuff that's coming through Planning Commission, Park Commission, Council. So you see some of those activities happening.
And then Leif, you mentioned something about the 123 project. Was there something that developed about that
Well, it's
land, or something that's?
the next agenda item. Is,
Oh, I'm
do,
sorry.
do we want to put out an RFP
Okay.
for that? So, which would fall under goal 3B, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so great conversation. Other thoughts or questions?
So I don't necessarily need a motion. I think we can, unless you would like to.
No, I don't need to make a motion. I guess my only ask might be is coming out of the council retreat, could we refine these 3 goals, not making wholesale changes, but I mean, as you and I discussed, there's some things that have been done, there's some things that are no longer germane, there's things we're taking action on tonight potentially. So, you know, without doing a wholesale change of direction, could we refine these 3 goals to be more relevant?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think part of this, I do intend to bring this larger abbreviated version to the council to kind of just show all of the things that this EDA is interested in working on. I think one of the things that I definitely want to have a conversation with the council on is what does the council see as the best role for the EDA? The EDA's mission has really been to spur business and support business, right? And we're doing that, but in a lot of different ways. Some things really well aligned, some things don't. And I think getting the council's take on where should we focus our efforts can really help us then in kind of fine-tuning an updated work plan.
If I could just add,
Yep.
any, you know, as far as my time, I was 15 years on the EDA, and it was a little bit frustrating where people in the community would come to me and say, hey, what's going on here? I heard this, and I hadn't heard anything about it. And so, as much as we can give it, you know, updates that you can, you know, that's
Yeah.
maybe not gonna, you know, compromise a deal or something like that, the better, because it just puts everyone here in a better position.
Yeah, one of my goals, and I think Administrator Stott's goal is just to increase communication with the community, right? With our appointed elected officials, but within the community. One of the goals that I have for my department in 26 is to get our development applications on our website, right? So just what is ongoing development happening? Where are we at in the processes and procedures? Unless you get a notification in the mail, there's no one centralized place, and we're going to continue to develop, I think, fairly rapidly, fairly consistently, from now until we're developed out. And so I think having those on our website as just one more way to help point people to a single spot is really going to be helpful. So that is a goal of mine, to work with my team to get that done this year. So.
All
Awesome.
right. If you don't need anything else from us, then let's
I don't, no.
go to Headwaters 123.
All right. Give me just a second to get where I need to go here. So in April this year, the EDA and the council held a joint meeting regarding Headwaters 123. And at the time, you were advised we were in negotiations with the sale for a potential purchaser who would have used it for a data center. At the time, the EDA and the council held a closed session. We talked about negotiation strategies for the sale of Headwaters 123. And the council did direct staff that if that potential purchaser went away, we needed to probably do something different to really start spurring some development. The potential purchaser has chosen not to move forward with entering into agreement with the city. So that's our time to reevaluate what we want to do with Headwaters 123. Staff is bringing forward this for your direction as to whether or not we want to move forward with a development of a request for proposals, a timeline of that nature, to kind of see if we can see if there's partners out there in the development community that want to partner on the development of Headwaters 123. As a reminder, the city has had this held with a broker for quite a number of years. I've been here 3.5. We had it listed with CBNRE. In conversations with other people in the economic development field, we feel like finding another broker might just garner the same results. Kind of they'll wait for somebody to come to us, whereas an RFP gives the opportunity for us to go to the development community and say, hey, is anyone interested at this time in this property? So the process generally follows that we would draft an RFP, publicly release it. During a submission period, there's opportunities for questions and answers, site visits. We receive proposals, we review proposals, we interview potential developers, and then we can make a selection, and that selection then it goes into negotiations. Sometimes what some people will do in an RFP process is they will actually have a sample purchase agreement built right into there, so developers are aware some of the stipulations that we might have, such as us having what are called clawback provisions if they don't develop it in the way we want or don't develop it in a certain time frame. So that process is likely to take 6 months or more, just depending on the timing of developing an RFP and getting that released and giving enough time to the development community to give responses. But staff is bringing this up for a few things. If, one, are we ready? Do we want to do this, take this next step? And if so, do we want to hire a third party to help us draft an RFP, manage that hiring process? That does free up some of staff's time to be able to work on some of the other community priorities or EDA priorities. Knowing that this should be a cooperative effort between the city council, the EDA, other appointed bodies who might want to serve on an RFP committee. I wouldn't imagine, the full RFP would come back to the EDA for your release, but then once we start getting in proposals, who would want to sit on an interview panel, help review those processes. And then, in the April workshop, you identified certain priorities for the Headwaters 123. Listed in order was to increase the tax base, create opportunities for business development, preserve neighborhood character, create jobs, and provide a cash injection. And so, aside from those things, are there any specific things the EDA would want that RFP to focus on? We did talk about multi-use development being kind of that business park, a small amount of retail, maybe some opportunity for residential in one area. So tonight for your discussion, and this one I am hoping that the EDA, if you're ready to make a motion to direct staff to do something here, and that might be we're not ready right now, and that's fine, but just bringing this back as you and the council had asked.
Thank you, Abby. All right, who wants to start?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So if we hired a person to help handle this, would the wages come out of the EDA funds then?
It would, depending on the structure, it could potentially be that they, yes, it would end up probably being, it probably would be at a EDA. We could talk with the council about whether or not that's a cost share. The property is owned by the city. The EDA has been kind of the marketing and negotiation arm. And usually the council will transfer the land to the EDA up before the sale. So it could be that the council would be willing to consider utilizing some general fund levy dollars. I'll be honest, I haven't gone out to the, usually a broker would still help with that RFP process. I haven't asked anybody what that would cost. I can try to figure that out before your next meeting, and we could see what those costs could be. But yes, I think those would be EDA.
And is the
Dollars.
contract up with CB right now?
Yep. They do have, CBRE does have an education institutional wing that does do just exactly this. Not only will they help you draft the RFP, but they put it out in the development community. That would be probably one firm I would look to, is just ask them of their, how they could help us with this process if we wanted to have this managed by a third party. Obviously, staff is helping manage it, but a lot of the legwork that consultant could help with.
Chris, is this something the county could help with this? And would you, are other cities, I know they are doing something like this. Myself and President Erickson met with the mayor and administrator of Cottage Grove. They did something similar on a piece of property that I think it was a combination. They had part of it, and then there was a developer that owned it and did this. But is this, what is your recommendation or thoughts on going this route? And what could the county do to help us?
President Erickson, members, good afternoon. Yeah, absolutely, the CDA would be willing to help you partner to put together the RFP. And there are, you mentioned Cottage Grove, there are other examples out there. Lake Elmo is just going through a very similar process right now, where 3M had donated, I think, 180 acres to the city, and the city is looking at making that an industrial park. So they've just recently gone through this RFP process, and we certainly get you a copy of that RFP and work with you to refine it and make sure it makes sense for you. Abby mentioned CBRE, but Ehlers and Associates, your municipal advisor, also does that type of work and has connections with developers within the development community as well. So maybe we can make a call to Rebecca and see if they can help, maybe point us in the right direction. But we can get started. I think honestly, at the end of the day, what you might be looking for is a development builder partnership. Instead of somebody just to list the land and hopefully put it out there on the MLS, but have somebody that's getting those inquiries, the builders that are getting those inquiries, to direct them to this site, and then work with them locally once we have them here. And that's the ideally the community that you'd like to connect with. And it's the United Properties, it's the Ryan companies, it's the big builders, Gone companies, I'm sure would be interested in exploring that possibility as well. That not only would sell it or market the land, but also look for companies that are looking to build a building and direct them to our location here. So, but short answer is yes, we can absolutely help with that process.
And I will say, since the time of developing the staff report and sending the packet out, I do have Lake Elmo's RFP on their 180 acres, their former 3M site. So we do have a good model that's been used in Washington County. I would say this isn't uncommon for staff to do. It's just whether or not you wanted to have a third party involved at all to help manage it.
Do you think, Abby, as we continue to ramp up on staffing, that's something that staff would be able to handle, say at first, Jan 1 or something?
I do. I mean, I think that we would spend the next couple of months trying to hammer down that RFP, and I think by Jan 1 at the latest, we could probably get that issued. And I think our staffing capacity will be significantly improved in the next probably 60 to 90 days, just in trying to fill some of those holes in the frontline development that is kind of pulling me into that world right now.
And then typically on these, I see where there's letter of intent. I mean, are we do an RFP, or we're tied to one developer then? If someone else comes in, we really have to go through the process before, if someone were to approach us out of the blue? or we would connect them with that, whoever received the, you know, the,
Yeah, as long as the RFP is out, anybody can submit a proposal on it. And it's the parameters of what we're asking for in the RFP, you know? What can you offer to make this the best partnership for you and us, right? That's ultimately, what are the roles of the developer and the roles of the city? What's gonna be the costs or the revenue share out of land sales? Those sorts of things are all outlined in their proposal. As long as that proposal window is open, anybody can submit on it. But after the proposal window closes, we really shouldn't be entertaining any offers or anything until we've gone through an entire RFP process. It could be through the RFP process, we find nobody wants to develop it right now. We could just be too far out still. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. But we won't know until we kind of go out, I think, proactively to the development community. If it comes down to we select somebody and we enter into legal agreements, then no, we would have to direct future businesses, other developers, builders to that party.
whoever we accepted,
Yeah.
whoever, yeah, we.
Two comments, one on, when you said we may be too far out. Brainerd EDA
I know.
has radio ads that are quite effective. When I first heard it, I thought, man, if I had a business, I'd entertain going to Brainerd and get out of town here.
Yeah.
And they have shovel-ready sites, and it's all right there in like a 15-second ad on the radio.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Pretty
think,
far out.
I
We're
don't think
closer.
that we are that far out. I think, I don't. I think that there's a difference between us and Brainerd. Brainerd is out. That's a whole different, like, quality of life, a different lifestyle, right? I think that we are going to, what did I say earlier? We're gonna grow gangbusters pretty consistently from now until us being developed out. I don't think that we're too far out.
Then one other comment. I assume you're going to look at the costs of between hiring a staff to do this or going with an experienced, one of, that Chris mentioned that does that for a living and doesn't need any training. that
Yes.
isn't wasting time trying to figure things out. They've
No.
got it down packed, 'cause that's what they do.
Yeah, I think, before our next meeting, we could probably give a couple very experienced people a call and say, what would you charge this for? Come back to you and say, do we want to hire a third party? Or I'm very confident that staff with, Chris's support, I can do this. We can do this without someone. We do need to recognize that that will take my time. And so that does put some limitations on, I don't know, entryway monuments or whatever other thing we might want to work on, right? But that's just part of managing, the workload of staff right now, so.
So from a timeline standpoint, the RFP process would take 6 months roughly, you said. So
Yep.
we're sitting in April. If best case scenario, there's an RFP we're just all in love with.
Mm-hmm.
We could potentially have shovels digging next year, or are you thinking the following year after it goes through all the other processes?
So let's just say, best case scenario, we found an RFP we were in love with in April. By maybe June, we could enter into legal agreements. Our entitlement process, because they still would probably have to go through some planning and land subdivision processes, that can take 6 months to a year. So it could be spring of '27 that dirt could be moved. I would love to be wildly optimistic and say fall of '26, but that's really optimistic.
That's kind of what I was suspecting was the case. The other piece that I'm curious on, so I noticed on number 2, it talks about zoning, land use, and those aspects. I believe that property is zoned, is it business
Yep.
district?
Business park.
Business park.
Yep.
Is there thought in the RFP to provide potential accommodations to changing portions of that?
I think we'd have to be honest in the RFP that we may be favorable for complementary uses, especially uses complementary to the adjacent land, because I have heard from the city council and even the planning commission about that kind of southwest corner where we've got borders right up against residential, and whether or not we need to change that kind of land use to feather the land uses in a little bit better. This RFP process can't change the zone, but definitely can allude to whether or not the city is willing to change it through a zoning amendment process.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest maybe having a conversation with the planning commission and the council as to what is your appetite for how far to go with that? What are you willing to put up next to the residential housing we know is almost certainly not gonna change near the golf course portion, as an example, on the south side?
And along Fenway, even though Fenway will be a major collector road, it will be residential directly across the street. And so, yep.
And so understanding their appetite so that that could be at least included in the RFP or somehow presented in there.
Yep.
So
I think
that we don't have some huge, awesome looking project that when you look at the neighboring properties, it's awful.
Yeah,
And it just chews up a lot of developers' time and ours.
yeah, yep. That's a great point, thank you.
I had a question. I mean, in the past, we've kind of talked about what is the latest in terms of research or trends going on. I was glancing at some headlines last weekend. I can't remember if it was in Business Insider or Forbes, but they were talking about kind of a growth with data centers, the need for data centers because of AI and a lot of that growth. And so I thought, oh, kind of like piqued my interest. But it was a subscription type article. I couldn't get to the whole thing. So anyway, I just thought, is that something that you're hearing? Because I'm hearing, which would be better for us, selling this to a developer like Agon or Orion Companies and the like, right? Is it easier for us, better for us to sell it to, I'm just making sure I'm understanding this correctly, an organization like that, or to go direct to an organization that's wanting to build there and work with their developer or a developer, like Digital Health Company or someone that's very AI driven. A lot of digital health is in that realm right now, very hot. So is that sort of the two lanes we're considering, or? Go ahead.
So it's kind of a loaded question, but, and truthfully, it's a little frustrating right now because we're hearing from our partners that provide electricity that they can't get us what we need to do an AI data center, for example. Originally, when we first started talking about the technology corridor, which was about 7 years ago, no problem, we can get you 200 megawatts easily.
That's right.
And just recently, we found out that turned into 2.5 megawatts, and then even more recently, 1.5 megawatts, which is about the size of a Costco and a half. And not only on the Headwater site, but in this corridor. So we're kind of bumping up against some capacity issues in terms of how much power is available. And I don't mean to say that to development community too hard, because I think there's some flexibility. I think the goalposts are moving a little bit. And we just found out recently that they're working on some studies to get additional substations and additional transmission mains into this area, and then they can distribute it to the individual sites. So, but that's kind of it's a moving target right now. Is there a need for data centers? Absolutely. AI isn't going to go away, and we think that this is a great site for a data center. It's a perfect use of those locations, but we've got to have the partnerships in place with the power company to make sure that they can provide electricity. So that's what we're hitting in terms of a little bit of a speed bump right now. I think we can get there, but it's going to take some time and a little bit of work.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Good question.
Major snafu.
It is a good question. Just to continue on what Chris has said is that I don't think, between now and the end of our RFP process, any party could probably come forward and we could entertain offers. There are some development limitations now. And those are the things that I think that in finding a development partner that is aware of them, but can also help plan out the development of the site so that the site can develop as the infrastructure is built, is going to maybe be more beneficial and maybe get us something there sooner
Right.
and then build it as we get that infrastructure there, so.
So one of the big questions I think you're asking is, should we have staff do this, or should we hire a third party here? And I'm kind of indifferent on this. I'm not really set in stone on it, where I think is the best path here. But what I think might be really good information to have to make that decision is understanding what's going to come back from that council meeting that's going to happen, where we know what their priorities are, and we can really see what your timeline is for the next year. And so what I might suggest is that whatever staff is able to do or really has to be done early on in the process maybe is started now. And once that work plan comes back, if we know that we're going to have some very strong priorities for you and your team, that we then hire that third party at that point.
I think that's a great, at least discussion topic. This, 2 months ago when we met last, the council hadn't set the strategic planning session, and this is gonna help inform a lot of my department's work, our work. I think before that meeting, later this month and before your next meeting, we certainly can also talk with, Ellers, CBNRE, the firms out there that can help manage a city through an RFP process and see what those costs are. We can work together on a little bit of a timeline and some parameters for what this RFP would be, so that then at least at the next meeting in November, we can at least have the conversation of what we've been hearing from the council. That strategic plan won't be set yet, but what we're kind of hearing from the council is strategic direction, and whether or not my capacity, my team's capacity, will be there. I do think that strategic plans are, shorter term than long-range plans. So nothing maybe that is going to be so pressing in like the first 3 to 6 months. So I think that this is almost like that quick little window while they are working through their strategic planning, that we can get something moving on 123. So I'm hearing you say is maybe do a little bit of legwork before the next meeting, have that strategic planning session with the council, come back, and we can kind of help provide that, you can help provide the direction of, should we hire somebody or should we just move forward on our own?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I don't know I guess I don't really recall exactly, but when we did have that closed session, we talked about, okay, we had this offer from this data center, that went away. Did we talk about maybe what that different look would be to we do have some planning out there where we're calling for like 3 to 5 to 7 foot smaller pieces to get a number of different businesses in there. I don't know if the EDA has been presented that or if you guys recall that or not, but as someone on the council going into that strategic planning, it'd be nice really, this is the, advisory board, or like, it'd be nice to almost, not to throw it back at EDA, but to, as a council, with everything else that we're trying to decide on a strategic planning, to, what is the desire of the EDA? Do we want to continue to have that in the back potential data center, or are we open to smaller, separate, breaking these parcel up and having smaller industrial sites? And if it is industrial, is it even industrial? I don't know if we've explored that since we,
Right.
we
I don't know
were
that
back
we
and
have.
forth, we gave
I
them
don't
an
think it's
offer.
really been really defined.
And maybe it has,
feel
I don't
fuzzy.
recall it, Abby, but maybe we have kind of, after that, circled back and said, they're gone, what do you guys want to do?
I thought we did before we went into the closed session. I thought we kind of did talk about the potential tax revenue of parceling this up in a smaller fashion. I thought there was direction. You saw some development plans similar. I think one was out of Woodbury that showed some medical, some retail, some
Okay,
supporting
yeah,
uses.
now it comes to me. So if that's, Is
So
that
it
still the?
would have been my intent with an RFP to say we're looking for a multi-use, some light retail that is along the parkway to support the neighborhood, but generally business park lots on the interior for job creation. Maybe that residential along the side. I would use our existing site plans that were developed, those concept plans, not only the one that was developed by the EDA just a few years ago, but one that was developed, I want to say, in maybe like 2015, 16, a small area plan. Say, here's some concept plans, but generally with the RFP proposal, we would probably be looking from them for a high-level concept plan as part of their application submission.
Is that still the desire of this board, do you think, is to
Well,
go that direction?
Yeah, I think part two here is to, do we want to do a collaborative effort with other members from other commissions and to really guide that RFP creation? So I guess I'm curious, is there anybody, that wants to definitely potentially be considered for that? Don't all jump at once.
I think it would be good to have non-council members on there just to get more perspective on it, if that's what the,
I feel like it's good to have that vision, and then also, because it's kind of in the same area, I don't know where the school district / potential collaboration, I know that's a separate plot of land, I don't know what happened to that.
I don't know that there's been in the most recent past, we have not heard from the school district that they would want to continue to partner to find land
I think
down
it's
there.
like an overall vision, and that was something that we talked about at that closed session, or our discussion during that evening, was part of the reason to say no to that, whoever it was that had an offer on the table, was that we want to have a vision with the look and feel, and that it makes sense, and we have a cohesive look and feel throughout our community. I mean, I would just like to have, sort of like Blake was saying, Mayor Roberts, sorry, having a vision or a layout, even if it's that Woodbury example, so if people came and asked, what are we doing over there? Or just having some of those things that we can refer to and say, this is sort of the game plan now and what we're thinking. And maybe it's just having those documents available, or referring back to them if they're in our packet from that week. I don't know if they were.
well, I just, basically wanted to make sure that everyone thinks those small area, like 3 to 5 or 7, and cut it up in, whatever the desire is or whatever this RFP comes back as, but we've kind of gone a little bit here now, talked still a little data center, we're talking some residential, so just maybe, like a clear idea of what maybe we want, or clear as possible, so that when we go into this strategic plan on the 25th, the council hears from the EDA where their vision is, where they think it should go. Maybe I'm putting that in a bad, it's coming up pretty quick, but it'd be nice to hear that, and, strongly or not, or.
Sure, and forgive me, I thought during our work session we did, and I know that was kind of tricky because we talked about the goal for Headwaters 123. We talked about, do we want to see this, do we want to see that, and then we went into a closed session, right? And I had really thought that the direction was, if the data center goes away, that we would be looking at some sort of multi-use. We'd be taking those old concept plans, taking the Headwaters Village neighborhood across the street, kind of throwing those together and kind of saying, development community, show us what you can give us to finish off this parkway. If we want to be doing some roundtable, some design stuff beforehand, we certainly can.
You're right, that probably, it's a lot of meetings, Abby, so.
It was a lot of meetings. I don't know how I remember, and sometimes I second guess myself if I
Yeah, no,
actually
I
am
think-
remembering it correctly.
Yeah, I think you are.
I remember that we did look at proposed lots, breaking it up.
Yep.
And keeping in mind that there was a major sewer line or whatever
Yep.
going through. And so it was divided up after that. We talked about not having trucks coming
Yep.
by Headwaters.
Yep.
So I thought we
Okay,
kind of refined what we were looking for.
I thought so as well.
We probably didn't document it.
That's okay. So,
Abby,
yeah,
I do remember, I was not at that session, but when we did the SWOT analysis with Chris, that's when because in my time here, it was always the big lots, right? And so then when we did the SWOT analysis, then we did see the images. That was when I first saw the smaller parcels, and that's when the conversation began, in my mind anyway.
I'm okay with smaller lots and changes in zoning and even some residential use perhaps on the property. What I will say is I would give great preference on any RFP that comes back that has strong business use and strong tax value coming out of that. And I think some of us can go really far back to when, like, this land effectively originated from what was Forest Lake Township land that they had bought from the airport property, and that shifted through a lot of pieces. And so the long-term plan, even the vision, I mean, this goes back like more than 20 years ago, was that this would be property that could support the community both via jobs as well as a tax base. And as soon as, and I know the public always gets excited when residential comes in because they think that's going to bring tax base, and it's completely opposite and untrue. Residential pulls in, we'll say, it's a 1 to, I think, 125 ratio, whereas a business is about 25 to 1, so, or 0.25 to 1. So the dollar, and there's certainly some exceptions, you know, your bars and stuff like that that use our police services, but we should really give great preference to any sort of type of business. And I'm not saying put a heavy industrial, you know, asphalt plant down there next to residential, but any sort of business use that we can get in here would be greatly ideal. And I would even say, I'm willing to wait a few more years. I've been sitting around these meetings for a couple decades. I can wait a little bit longer until that right time comes for the right project.
yeah.
There's not a whole lot of 100-plus acre properties in Forest Lake that could theoretically be developed.
No, I will say, if we wanted to sell it for residential, I could have sold it yesterday, hands down. And I think now the question that I'm just bringing to you is now the time to go ask the development community if anybody wants to give us a proposal. Just because we go through that process doesn't mean we'd have to select any of them. And certainly the RFP would emphasize our priorities, and we don't have to select something that doesn't meet our goals. I think we learned that going through this last negotiation process too, is if we're gonna sell to one user and it's going to be one big box, well, we want a big bag of money. Right?
Because
But
it's one big risk.
because it's one big risk. But this is, you know, a lot, when we start to really think in economic development terms of the long-term impacts, those future jobs, those future tax base. And it takes some planning and it'll take some time developing it out. So overall, I'm hearing a few things. That generally speaking, we might be ready to move forward with an RFP. Generally speaking, you might want to see a little bit more detail of what would be in that RFP and what the cost would be if somebody assisted us with it before I think you guys are ready to say, yeah, go ahead and really put a lot of time and effort. So I think between now and your November meeting, I can, one, chat with the council. This is a blip in the strategic plan, right? This is a overarching, we're gonna look at land development and land sales, right? Because that's a big priority, I think, type of thing. And then what are the little things that we do underneath it? I know Headwaters 23 is not a little thing, but have that brief conversation with the council, see if this is still a strategic, you know, they want us to keep moving on this. And then at our next meeting, I'll kind of give you some visuals that we'd include, some cost estimates if we were gonna hire somebody else, and really see if you guys are wanting us to start moving forward with something. Does that seem like, I see a lot of heads nodding?
I think so.
Okay.
Did we build in the budget to hire a consultant for this project?
We have it built into the 26 budget to do a project without necessarily having decided what that project is. We had the Southwest area study that some of the funds might creep into 26, but I imagine it would be done in, my vision is we'll be done with that project in 25 and just be using $25. But we did not necessarily dedicate like a project to use our kind of consulting dollars for. So there could be some funding available. I don't know if this is one of the things that pre-development finance fund would help cover, but pre-development finance fund with the county could also help us cover some of those consulting fees for the RFP process.
Sounds good. Well, great discussion. Do you need anything more from us in terms of a specific motion or anything?
I don't. In fact, I put both of these on the regular agenda for action, but really they were kind of discussion direction more than anything, so.
Your item on here regarding a committee formation,
We don't need one right yet.
we can, oh, that was my question. We can wait until,
I think we can wait, because I think the idea of the committee really would be, once the RFP goes out, and if we're gonna do interviews and selection of things, that's when we would really want some bodies from council, EDA, planning commission to be involved, so.
Would you want bodies involved in the front end just to give people's,
I think I'm just gonna bring it back to this body as a whole,
okay.
because this would be your RFP process, whether or not you're gonna fund it or not. I think this would end up being managed by the EDA. This is really an EDA function. We're going out, we're finding development partners to develop and potentially sell city land.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, next item is discussion, and no, you just did that. So we'll go to updates. Abby.
I wanted to provide you all with an update. The earlier this year, a few years ago, the city elected to help support Midco in their border-to-border grant application. The border-to-border grant application was intended to help provide a large portion of Forest Lake with Midco's broadband services that were either underserviced or had no service in the community for broadband services. This is something we learned during the pandemic, that there was a large portion of the community that was just underserved in internet capacity. Their project has been completed. The council has given them the commitment of the $50,000, but I wanted to at least just make the EDA aware that the project was completed, and there's now a significant portion of the city that is serviced by Midco's broadband service. If I remember right, and I'd have to just go back through my notes, it was something like 250 properties that became eligible, and I think there's maybe about 10 or 12 of them that were businesses as well. And so not necessarily advocating for any specific business, but showing that Midco's been making investments in the community to help improve quality of life throughout the areas that were underserved. So this isn't just a brief update. Do you have any questions? No?
Thank you.
Moving right along, if you don't mind, Chair.
No.
The last meeting, we talked about commissioner expirations. I did double check. We had talked about the concern that we have 4 of the 7 members' terms would be up at the end of this year. One of them is President Erickson, who is an annual appointment because our body is made up of 5 at-large members, the mayor, and 1 counselor. So though the mayor will stay through his term, but the 1 counselor is up for reappointment each year. So that's then leads us just to 3 people turning over. Now, I think there was concern that that's almost a quorum turning over. We can't change that, but we do have to look at our bylaws and our governing documents in the next probably between now and the first quarter of 2026. And so I think we can reestablish a process to get those staggered out a little bit better. But it did confirm Commissioners Lorge, Grindall, and Wright's terms will be up this year. And so just having that conversation again of willingness to continue to serve. If there's not, you don't have to say anything right now. What I would ask you to do is to reach out to Leif or Mayor Roberts and have those conversations. So that way, if we know that there's going to be a vacancy, that we can try to solicit for those in advance. It's our hope that we don't sit with large gaps of vacant positions for too long. So, not necessarily need discussion, just reach out to Leif or Blake if you want to chat about that.
Great, thank you.
Local affordable housing aid update provided you guys with, I think last fall we talked about, we have new sales tax revenue dollars to go for local affordable housing initiatives. The EDA, Planning Commission, and Council all agreed we wanted to focus using our dollars on helping our homeowners rehabilitate their homes if they are making between 80 and 110% AMI. That would be our first priority. Second priority is to rehab rental properties in that same income threshold. So we have found a partner. Washington County CDA has existing programs and has created a new program to help homeowners, renters with exactly what we're looking for. And they are willing to administer our LAHA dollars at no cost to the city. And so for council's consideration next week is entering into an agreement with the CDA for the use of those dollars, which means that we'll start marketing out the use of those low interest loans. I think when I say low interest, I want to say they might be even no interest loans. Chris, may you know, may you not?
Don't.
That's okay. I'll bring it back. Just trying to put the word out there as much as possible because we do have we've got a healthy LAHA reserve of, I think, over $200,000 to start distributing within the community. So that's a pretty good amount when you think of helping hit homeowners, I don't want to say hit homeowners, support homeowners in their rehabilitation and upgrade efforts.
Awesome. Thank you.
Not on the agenda, was supposed to be boards and commissioners picnic is this Thursday. I don't know what we call it, but if just by a show of hands, who might be there, so we might get a head count. Great. It's at 4 o'clock at Lakeside Memorial Park. 4 to 7, I think it is. 4 to 6?
4 to 6, I think.
4 to 6.
It's dark by 7.
It is dark by 7. Look at that.
It's 6:30.
So I see the two counselors. You gonna show up, Chris?
Maybe.
I'm not available.
Okay. So we've
Sorry, what time did you say it starts?
4 o'clock ends at 6 this Thursday
Oh.
at Lakeside. 4 to 6. So I see 3.5, maybe. Okay.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, I don't. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Chris, anything happening in Washington County?
Thank you, President Erickson and members. I don't have any formal updates for you. I would be happy to stand for any questions from anyone.
Go ahead.
I have one. Abby had mentioned the local affordable housing aid would be 80 to 100% AMI. Do you know what that number is? And then the second question I have with that, and if you don't run this, just please tell me. But do you know how that program will be run through the county? Like, is the county doing the approvals, or are they sending them back to council here who has to ultimately approve it?
President Erickson, Member Lingus, I don't work directly with the program, and I will get you back. I will get you the income limits, specific numbers. I don't have those, but the CDA does have staff that will work with you to kind of set up the policies and how you want to implement it, and then we'll just do that work on your behalf and report back to you on the administration of it. But you won't have a direct role in it. Just tell us how you want it run, and I'm sure Melissa and her team with the CDA, who I focus more on the economic development side of it. They have a team that specializes in housing and that will roll up their sleeves and do this on your behalf. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
I can at least comment. The county CDA's staff will answer questions about the program. They will administer the application process, the loan approval process. They will not approve any loans without staff saying okay. We've written out the agreement that our priority level is to try to inject as much as we can to a wide variety as possible in that home ownership category. Rental rehabilitation has some unique strings through the state that I could see it maybe not being as desirable for rental property owners. And then we did also put a clause in there that we can use this, they can use this in partnership with their other programs. So it could potentially help support like a Habitat for Humanity, those sorts of things. Our number one priority, though, is let's try to get it into our homeowners' hands. And with that, we have 3 years. So if it seems by the 2.5-year mark that we first receive funds, that we're not getting it out into our homeowners, that gave us those other avenues to try to help disperse it before the state might end up taking it back or whatever. We can get you those AMI limits. I was looking online right now, and I don't have that quick at hand, but we can provide that at your next meeting. Or via
Or
email.
once it's set up, along
Yes.
with a link so we can share it to folks in the community and help promote that. We may as well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's really dumb the state did it, but we may as well use it since they're giving it to every community in the state,
It's not every community.
or many.
It is
communities.
many, and it is just a metro area tax, I think. But yes, it is many communities. But it is quite a bit of money
Mhm.
per year, so.
All right, thank you, Chris. Nanette, anything from the chamber?
Well, good evening. I have just a few things. I know you're all ready to move on, right? Just kind of a comment back to what Abby was talking about all the entitlements. And from our standpoint at the chamber, we've seen over the summer just a nice increase in membership, which I think reflects well upon what's happening in our community, as well as the need for visits or the request for visits. We've been doing more visits than normal, which is a great thing. And some of those have been very celebratory, from the groundbreaking of the Vet Memorial and opening of Belts Park. So again, just seeing a lot of movement within the business community, quite a few brand new businesses. So that's feeling really, really good. And just says to me that we have good things happening here in Forest Lake. So happy to report that. Then also in partnership with Chris Eng and Washington County and our colleagues across all of Washington County, we've mentioned to you before that we have been instrumental in helping our colleagues in the southern part of the county, because they do not have a Mike and Molly. And by a Mike and Molly, I mean our career launch program at the Forest Lake area schools. And if you didn't know, that program is a model program across Washington County. And so between the chambers and the education world, we're working to create and to help foster some of that kind of programming across the county. I would say that. So we're very excited about that. And in fact, all of us were brought together just last month in Forest Lake. And so again, we were able to tour and really get a hands-on experience with Career Launch. And I was amazed. I haven't been into some of those classrooms since the renovations and all that. And so just really some wonderful things going on in our area school. Next, I thought I'd report that we are hiring, and so I'm in the hiring process. And right now, that is a replacement with a boost, and so replacing our executive assistant with more hours. And then we're moving right on into our annual gala, which gives us the opportunity to celebrate with our community, our member in our community. And so, in case you're wondering, it's November 6th, and so working diligently on that. And all at the same time, working with staff here at the city to get ready for Hometown Holiday, which will be here in no time. Christmas, celebrating December 6th. So, any questions? Yes?
What are the reasons the new businesses are giving for moving to Forest Lake?
They're the ones that, well, I can think of one, right? One is somebody that's related, and so was brought here by her family and relocated here. That's the one that's strong in my mind. Some of the others, We just did the grand opening for KL Engineering, and they have 5 firms in 5 locations in Wisconsin, and they chose Forest Lake. They just chose us. They did their research. They thought they liked the area. They liked what. Really, it was just really about the community and some of the projects that we have going on. And I had to say too, I was very impressed. We visited them right before the Belts Park grand opening, and they came down and were able to meet our administrator and Abby, and so really, really engaged and excited to be here and to work within the community.
And what, did Aztec give a reason why they built, why they put up a new building here in Forest Lake?
Sure, they did. They had been located in the Edina area, and this is a family business. Everybody in the business is family members, and they wanted more space, and so they moved their family. Their homes are up in the Stacy area, and they just wanted more space. So to your point, right? So they have their showroom, and then they have their manufacturing building is right next to interstate companies, and so brand new building. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we use any of these positive things as testimonies to for our advertising?
We certainly can reach out to some. I'm happy to do that. I will say, just piggybacking on what Nanette had said, I'm hearing from members of the business community, they're moving because they have workforce here, or they want to attract the workforce here, and for the quality of life. I think that is hands down what we're hearing, is that people want to be in Forest Lake because of its unique standalone nature and how it has everything you need right here, and how we've done a good job at trying to preserve our environment and grow responsibly. And so that's what I'm hearing, is that it's really, we've done well and continue to do well in attracting folks.
Wouldn't it be nice when you send out these proposal requests to have little testimonies, just read
That's a
For
really
sure.
great.
That's great.
of
Mhm.
Forest Lake?
Yep.
I believe it was KL. I'll circle back with them, but the other thing too that they said, and I hear this repeatedly since I've been in Forest Lake, which is a long time now, but that we're still, even though we're a larger city, we still have the care and the feel of a small town, a smaller community, and that was one of the driving factors for. It was actually the gentleman Mike that he was the one that chose the location, and he just really liked that community feel that we've sustained here. So
Good to hear.
Can I just add one thing to that whole subject, to that? When Chase did their grand opening, Chase Bank, I think they have 40 locations throughout the Twin Cities
48.
now. How many?
48 across
and-
the country.
And that general manager or the regional manager just said that they'd never seen such a turnout for a grand opening of community members and business owners. And so that says a lot when you have someone who's been in 48 communities. So that was a real proud moment and a testament to the chamber and the members.
I keep hearing more and more, statements like that, so it's being noticed,
Yeah.
so it's a good motivation to just keep up.
And this was the gentleman that actually goes around. We were the 48th location, and he's the one that goes and opens all the locations, and he was quite impressed.
I was even thinking of it for Arts in the Park this year, the one guy who had never been to Minnesota before, and he was like, "This is so incredible, look at the lake, this is so great." Just right in the middle of town there. Like, it is kind of, I always think like it's a little Mayberry Lane sometimes, I just look around and go, this is kind of cool, to have someone else come in from out of town sometimes and they don't see some of the things that those of us that have been here for a long time is, oh, that eyesore, oh gosh, but they see the, the things that do make it, you can walk over here or to here and get, whatever, and we do have pretty much everything that you would need close, and we're also close to the cities, but we're far enough
But we're
out
far enough
without being
removed,
too far
yeah.
out.
Well, and
Not right, but
you brought up Arts in the Park. That
Yeah.
this year more than ever as well. We met people there that were brand new to the area. That's another. Met a new member, newly moved here. Met her at Arts in the Park, and so we had all throughout the summer just folks that stopped by the booth and engaged with us, and they were new to the area. Either they had just moved here or they moved their business here, much more so than in the past.
One last thing, just a thank you to the chamber and kudos to you for your ambassadors, because those are the ones turning out for the ribbon cutting.
Yep.
And it seems to be growing in the photos, the more and more ambassadors. It's great to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leif, can I just state, I did find the low end, the 80% area median income in Washington County. So that would be serving households of a family of 4 making $104,200. That's the low end for a family of 4. So.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other updates from the body? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.